I don't know how we display our own signs of aggression. Maybe we take out a textbook and read in their faces. Or... Hi, I'm Hafiz.
Hi, I'm Gabe.
Hi, I'm Brian.
Hi, I'm Leah. This is
ZULA
ZULA ChickChats. Okay, so in today's episode of ChickChats, we'll be talking about boys' school culture. Okay, before we start, please tell us which school you guys are from.
Okay, so I was from Raffles Institution from Sec 1 to Sec 4. So that was my balls. Yeah, but it was my boys' school period.
I was
This school
from St. Michael's Primary School, now known as St. Joseph's Junior. Then after that, I went on to normal SGI.
I went to St. Stephen's for primary school, and then I went to St. Pat's, otherwise known as St. Patrick's School, for 4 years in secondary school. Yeah.
So,
You're from?
I was not from a boys' school, but I was from CHIJ. Talking about the experiences that you guys had going to a boys' school. Hafiz, maybe you can start off with you. You know why? Because you came from a co-ed school first and then you went into a boys' school. So how was that like for you?
Okay, for me, like, it was quite a game changer. Because back in primary school, I was still very shy. Well, I remember some girls like used to bully me last time. Yeah, legit. So I was eating food and then they took my fork and ran away. I couldn't eat. So when I went to secondary school, it was all boys. Then like I didn't have girls to like disturb me or like bully me. Okay, at Raffles, like, to be honest, when you think of it, like, you would think like, well, you just be like a bunch of nerds or like people who just want to study. But yeah, like the friends that I mixed with were mostly quite rowdy lah. Then like, yeah, maybe that's why I'm like this now. But it was an interesting change.
For you guys, is it similar experience like the boys' school very rowdy one? Because this is what I think of boys' school.
We will get up to a lot of nonsense lah, like, you know, like play pranks on teachers, each other. We'll fight. Like, you go through like the highs and lows all together. Yeah. So I don't know if it's like a thing for mixed schools where there are girls, but as in for an all boys school, we used to get like public caning every day. Like, not everybody lah, like those that misbehave.
One by one.
Yeah.
Do you have any cases of like bullying in school?
I was the bully.
Okay.
Okay, like, I didn't consider it bullying. Essentially, it was just my group of friends. We didn't bully anyone. I don't know, I think it's a big group thing. I just like think this guy looks funny or something. Then I'll tell my friends, hey guys, you know this guy, his specs, right? His degree, 1,000 degrees.
Okay.
Look like owl.
Okay.
Then everybody will rush to this person's class, right? And stand this class and see, then we call him owl. Okay.
Damn bad, yeah.
Then bad, then
That is so mean. How can you not say that's bullying? It's a bullying. Okay lah, but I understand what you're trying to say. It's like you just making fun, that kind of thing. But then ultimately,
I mean, technically speaking, it is bullying lah.
Yeah,
I
it's
guess.
like-
But-
Yeah, I think at that time when we were all like boys and like childish,
yeah.
we like didn't know better lor. Yeah.
I think for me and my group of friends, it's very similar to what Gabe has just
Oh, okay.
shared.
What?
So it's just the dynamics of our group. So when something funny happens or when someone says something funny, then we will just like attack the person. That kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and that person can still be one of our friends.
Is it very normal to have fights in school?
In my school, no.
Mine's
But I'm
like
sure-
every day there was a fight. So the
Are
most
you
epic
serious?
one, right? And
Wow.
this was like a police case.
Oh my god.
There was these two friends, so they were having a conversation during recess, and then his friend apparently said that his girlfriend is very ugly. So he got very angry and riled up that he took his fork and he stabbed his friend
know
in the
this
head.
story.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
shit.
yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he became known as like
Yeah,
the
yes,
fork
yes.
stabber. The friend had
Did
gone
it stick
hospital.
to the head?
Yeah.
Yeah, then the friend went hospital, right? Apparently he had like 4 dots on the head. Yeah.
The brand of the
Jeez.
fork, it's quite a solid fork. Asking the wrong questions.
What the fuck? What the fuck? So like word spread naturally. Then
Yeah.
our principal told us during like the assembly said, if there are news reporters outside the school, please don't talk to anybody. But everyone spoke to the reporter.
Oh my god. Do you all have like crushes on like female teachers?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Very normal for me.
Okay.
But especially because from an all-boys school, right?
Mm.
There are no females around except the teachers.
Yeah.
Because I see these teachers all the time, right? And they carry themselves in a certain way that makes me a little bit more attracted to characteristics like that in other girls. Crushes, I wouldn't say like a serious, oh my god, ma'am, I love you. that kind of
Ma'am,
thing.
yeah.
No,
Oh
no,
my
ma'am.
god, teachers, ma'am.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, there was a guy I know. You know how teachers, when they talk, then they'll walk down the row. Then he put his elbow at the corner of the desk. Then when her butt like grazed his elbow, right? Then he
Then he
snickered.
hit puberty.
Then she like, sorry. Then he's like, oh no, sorry. But actually he was like, did it intentionally. Actually, it's sexual harassment
Oh
if you think about it.
God.
So there was one time there was this relief teacher. The class she had to relieve was a very rowdy class, and basically like they took off their shirts and they started doing this around
Yeah.
her.
Oh my god. I would be terrified if I was in her position. I don't know if like sexual harassment or what in that
Yeah,
case.
I think like especially now if it's in a 2019 context, right? It's definitely sexual harassment.
Yeah, 10 years ago it was still sexual harassment.
It was
still
like it was.
indecency. It's
Yeah.
just not that it was overlooked.
Yeah.
It was okay lah.
was
I guess it
under
is.
the
It
rug.
was overlooked also lah.
So, is there any like ranking between like the boys' school? Or do you all have a particular perceived notion of any other school? Do you like this school? You don't like this school? That kind of thing.
I think for me, for RI boys, because like I think our top rivals would be Catholic Cat High boys.
Okay.
Because firstly, we are within the same vicinity. Every time when we see another Cat High boy or what, I don't know how we display like our own signs of aggression. Maybe we take out a textbook and read in their faces or yeah, but it's like when something about Cat High boys. I think also because like they don't have long pants. And once we reach Sec 3, that is something that we always like internally like disturb them about lah. Like, hey, wow, so hairy, still wear shorts and that kind of thing. Yeah, but it's all just like mindless banter like, amongst ourselves.
Sometimes when I see RI boys, I think wow, these people just take our uniform, but then put RI badge.
Oh my
That's all
god, are you
white.
all same
Yeah,
uniform?
all white.
Wait, all white.
Yeah.
Oh my god, all of you have the same uniform. What the?
I think like for St. Pat's, right, like we honestly did not give two shits about the academic ranking lah. But for some reason, I don't know why, we always dislike SGI. Yeah, like we always felt like SGI were like the nerdier, uncool version
The
of
second rate
us. Yeah.
Saint Pat's,
Yeah. Eventually we outgrow that lah because after all we are like brother school.
You mentioned something about like what the St. Pat's boys will go to don't know where to see the KC girls.
Oh,
What was that you said?
Yeah, so basically after school every day, right, there were a few like hot spots where St. Pat's boys would go to like look at SAC girls or like KC girls.
Okay.
Yeah, so we always would go to like Sigma Max or Parade Parade or like the Marine Parade, the market area.
SGI. The nearest school to us, like literally like 500 meters down, is SCGS. What I've heard is that some of the younger boys used to walk over to SCGS and they try and peek inside. But I think the SCGS girls didn't give a damn about us. Most of the time, if I'm not wrong, it will be the SCGS girls with the ACS guys.
Got date the RGS girls or not?
Okay, it's funny as it is. The hotspot for me, for my friends at least, was Bishan Library.
What?
So, like, I think they got quite close to a group of RGS girls and Crescent or CEDA girls also. Yeah, so what they would do is have study sessions lah after school.
We move on to maybe talking about like some misconceptions or assumptions people have about boys' school boys. Yeah, and then actually one of them was because we did an episode on the girls' school culture, right? And then everybody's like, oh, all girls' school girls are lesbian, that kind of thing. Is it the opposite for guys? People have the assumption that all of you are gay?
I think there's definitely like a percentage in St. Pat's, like, but we always used to make fun of SGI of being like the gayer school. I don't know why.
Maybe because of the stuff that we do together when we are in school. We would strip someone down to his underwear in class, right after class ends, and then just leave him inside and lock the door. No, but it's, as in he's our friend.
Okay.
Maybe that's why people call us gay lah. We know we are not.
I think maybe it stems from like how close we are as like bros.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like we stay over each other's house, like
Slap each other's ass.
yeah.
One of the things that someone asked me to ask was that boys' school boys like homophobic then because people make all these kind of comments as well.
I think in St. Pat's it's really quite jialat. There was this guy who posted on his blog that he went on a date with a guy from another school. That was like a Saturday or something where he posted. Then after that weekend, he came back on a Monday, right? Everyone just started like shouting at him like, hey gay. Then like people would throw tissue paper at him.
God.
People would throw like their things at him. Then he just walked down the corridor, but he wasn't like affected.
What is the same for y'all?
We knew who was gay, but we didn't bully. Nobody bullied them.
One of the girls asked me to ask y'all, do y'all play soccer every recess?
I wouldn't say every recess lah. There are days where we have to really eat lah, cause we're damn hungry, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't one of the soccer clique, yeah.
St. Pat's is the soccer school.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
a
is
soccer
it?
school, so we
Oh,
are
okay.
known for like playing soccer.
So another misconception, right, is that boys' school boys are very rich.
My
That's
perception is that like all boys school, for example, like ACS or St. Andrews are the rich ones.
Okay.
Yeah, then St. Pat's like no lah.
I think for RI maybe because like it's the branding lor. How do I put it? The image of an
Okay.
RI boy that they portray or they like to push out is someone who's very very proper. So like might come across as coming from a rich family or wealthy background lah. Even though like there are people who are very rich and stuff, but I think at the end of the day like they didn't really like use this to look down on other people.
I don't know why people say that. Cause
Okay.
I don't know if about now, but back then there was this program called something about welfare assistance for the more underprivileged kids
Yeah.
lah. No doubt I have to say that some of us come from an above average household. Even in school, right, they teach us to be independent of our parents, especially in terms of like finances. So as much as I came from an above average household, right, I was actually some poor dog. I was living like day to day on the $2 my mother gave me. Maybe because we are in an independent school,
Yeah.
the more wealthier parents
Yeah.
are more willing to spend a little bit more money to send their child
Yeah.
to, I guess, an all girls or an all,
Yeah.
all boys school.
People assume boys school boys are like very more elite. I think it would be a lot from like the RI side also. Like because RI is also a very elite school.
I think at the end of the day, it really boils down to who you are as a person, like regardless of what school you come from, and also like the kind of friends you mix with. For me, I couldn't really experience any of these like pretentious nature or the elitist mindset.
All the perceptions, right, are created by our parents' generation. Then they just like
Yeah.
pass down to us, you know. Then that's what we think.
Looking back at your younger self, do you have any advice for yourself or advice for people who are currently in a boys' school?
Don't take out your clothes in front of teachers.
Oh my god.
I think for boys' school at least, like sometimes you might get too carried away in terms of like having too much fun with your friends. Yeah, but I think you still have to take note of like how important like academics actually is also. It's not something that you can just like throw away lah. Yeah, but instead use your dynamics as a bros group to encourage each other or like to push each other. Then
Yeah.
and that's great lah, because really the influence that we have on one another, I would say, is very very strong.
It's good to sit in the canteen for like maybe an hour and just talk shit. Because this is how boys' school boys bond.
If I have kids in the future, right, I would still send them to like St. Pat's, or if it's a daughter, I'll send them to IJ lah. Yeah, because I think the culture is very unique.
I think it's good to take away also lah, that you know no matter what school you go to, it's like you need to work, like you just work hard and like you know be yourself, make good friends, and that's great. Don't discriminate based on your school. Okay, so with that said, we've concluded this episode of ChickChats talking about boys' school culture. And if you guys are from boys' school and you feel like you want to add on to any of the comments that the cast have mentioned, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. And also let us know what else to talk about next time. And then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Bye bye!
Bye bye!